the reigning back-to-back, belly-to-belly Super Bowl champions. In another nail-biter, though, what happened? Kansas City. Now, they did get the win. They secured their 5th walk-off victory. Turn out the lights, the party's over at the very end there, as Patrick Mahomes and Kansas City getting a walk-off field goal in the win. But afterwards, Mahomes giving, if you will, a State of the Chiefs address. They had lost at Buffalo. They bounced back, and they get the win. Now, if you did not hear this, perhaps not. Mahomes said that he will take the win, obviously, any way he can get it, but he would much prefer that these wins are less stressful. Quote, "You want to have some blowouts," Mahomes stated after the Chiefs beat the Panthers by a mere field goal, despite being a double-digit favorite, needing a no-name kicker named Spencer Schrader to boot a 31-yard field goal as time expired. So Mahomes said, "You want some blowouts." So let us discuss the question for the esteemed panel, which you are a part of. Here's the question, all right? So can you explain why Patrick Mahomes and Kansas City have struggled to consistently win against even weak opponents by wide margins? What is this all about? So I've got elevator, check engine, and Mary Poppins. And we will combine all of these things together, and we are going to make some delicious barbecue brisket. They just do it a little bit better, a little different in Kansas City. So number one. I said number one. Yeah, all right. Number one. All right. Stop. All right, listen. Andy Reid's team. We know the stakes here. Back-to-back Super Bowl championships, so they have a bullseye, blah, 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 blah. They're going to get everyone's top punch. I get that. They know that. You know that. Everyone knows that. And it would appear, based on what we have seen, that while they are winning these games, they do not have the afterburners. They do not have the afterburners to blow past these teams and win by 21 points. They can't do what the Eagles did, for example, in the Sunday night game, where in the second half it was a 6-point lead at halftime for Philadelphia, and they went absolutely bonkers in the second half. They're not the Chiefs are not that team. They're not that team, pal. They're not that team. They're not. And we are deep enough, I think we can all agree on this, that we are deep enough into the 2024 NFL season. It's Week 12, almost done. One game left on Monday night, the Ravens and the Chargers. And then we're on to Thanksgiving. So at this point in the NFL season, any objective observer will tell you that you are what you are at this point, right? This is your identity. This is who you are. And the 2024 vintage of Kansas City, they are an elevator team. They either play up or they play down to their opponent, but they're an elevator team, up and down. 10-1, the Chiefs' record at this particular point. They have 8 wins by 1 score. That is tied for the NFL record for the most wins by a team with 11 in any season. So they're tied for the record, including some of the wins here. I was at the game where they beat the Broncos at Arrowhead, blocked the kick at the very end to win that game. They've got 1 win in overtime, and that was when the opposing receiver, remember, against Baltimore, could not get his foot down in the end zone by mere inches. It's a game of inches. And now 2 by field goal for Kansas City. So that's who they are. Now, you can win a Super Bowl like that. You can absolutely win a Super Bowl like that. You're most likely going to have the number 1 seed, although you did lose to Buffalo, so you don't have a lot of margin of error. But you have that first-round bye if you get the number 1 seed. You don't have another hiccup along the way. And then after that, you're like, okay, you're in pretty good shape because you just got to win a couple games and you're right back in the Super Bowl. Now, page 2. Tony Pollard. Remember him? Tony Pollard. Rumbling. And he had 119 yards and a touchdown, which sounds impressive until Saquon Barkley had 255 in the Sunday night game. But Tony Pollard, 119 and a touchdown. And the Titans upset the Texans. What's wrong, Houston? We have a problem. 32-27. The story here, the level of suck by C.J. Stroud of the Texans. He was the most wagered player at one point this offseason on the gambling market to win the most valuable player. Another example of a guy that got hyped up. He had a good year last year, solid rookie season, and then the TV talking heads went crazy, said how amazing he's going to be, and people went out and they bet their money on C.J. Stroud to be the MVP, and wow, man, is he bad. So the question, all right, what the heck is wrong with quarterback C.J. Stroud in Houston? So, Stroud, if you look at the numbers here, he had 247 yards passing in this particular game, 2 touchdowns. However, he's just simply not good enough. He did the thing you can't do at the time you can't do it. It was a 3-point game. He had the fourth lowest completion percentage of the season, and it was intercepted a couple of times. Also sacked for a safety. That was the cardinal sin. With 1:17 to go in the fourth quarter, the Texans down by 3 at the time. Field goal ties the game. You cannot get sacked, obviously, for a safety. So this has been a season-long malaise here. The check engine light is on the dashboard for C.J. Stroud. And at the very least, he needs to go in and have an oil change and a tune-up. It's getting worse. It's not getting better. Since week 7, Stroud has, if you look at the numbers here, he's thrown 4 touchdown passes and 6 interceptions. It's tied for the second most in the NFL, the interceptions. And his passer rating, 74.7, which is the second lowest among all starting quarterbacks in the NFL. So he's at the very bottom. There's only one person worse than him at this point. Now, last season, breakout year, he led the NFL in passing yards per game, averaged 274 per game. Also, touchdown to interception ratio was amazing. All kinds of wonderful numbers, and has already thrown 9 interceptions this season already. So there's a couple of things here. You say, well, it's a sophomore slump. Obviously it is. We know that, Captain Obvious. But has the league figured him out? Have they finally figured out, it didn't take very long if that's the case, where they figured out his tendencies, and now they've able to close the gap and he can't adjust. That whatever he was doing last year, they said, all right, we'll force him to do something else, and he hasn't been able to come up with those plays because you can say for a while Nico Collins was out and that was a part of it, but Nico Collins has come back and he's still not – he's just not that good. He's not – speaking of not that good, back we go to Indianapolis where Jahmyr Gibbs running and going crazy, had 90 yards, a pair of touchdowns. Detroit, another workmanlike road win in Indianapolis. They win that game 24-6, the final over the Colts. But the story here is in the losing locker room as the Indy defense kept Jared Goff from throwing a touchdown. So they did their job. 24 points for the Lions, the way the Lions are this year. That is a manageable number. The issue is what happened at the quarterback position in Indianapolis. So how do the Colts handle Anthony Richardson and his many struggles as he had another stink bomb performance? So the Colts, you never know with Jim Irsay. Jim Irsay might wake up later today. He's probably up right now. But when he goes to bed, he'll wake up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and just say, well, we want to go back to Joe Flacco. We're going to call Andrew Luck and see if he'll come play for us. Hey, Andrew, how would you like to come out of retirement and play for the Colts again? We need some help here. But assuming that doesn't happen, assuming that we don't go down that road, the Colts at this point have to follow the advice of Mary Poppins. And just a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down because they got to take the pill. This is what they wanted. They drafted a guy who's not ready to play quarterback in the NFL. That should not be out there. They tossed him out there last year. He actually played decently before he got hurt. He put him out there again this year. He sucked. Then he got hurt. Then they benched him. And now he's back. And he played actually well against the Jets. Richardson did, J-Rich. And then came back, and this is more on par with the player that he has been. He completed less than 40% of his passes against the Lions defense. And no touchdowns, no interceptions, passer rating, not very good. Not very good. Yards per attempt, 6.1. Bad across the board. It was junior varsity football is what it was. It was JV level football. But they got to do this. Now, if he continues to be up and down like this, if you're the Colts at the end of the year, you say, thank you very much. We appreciate your service, and we would like you to stay as a backup. And if you don't want to be backup, we'll send you somewhere else, and you're out of here. But there's no way you can win with Anthony Richardson, playing this way. You just can't. I mean, you don't know what you're going to. He runs great, but he's a quarterback, so you don't really need that. You need him to throw the ball, I think. But what do I know?